This meeting is being recorded.
This meeting is being recorded. Welcome, welcome. It is Saturday, January 15th. We're going to be posting this in February 20th. This will be posted. So it'll still be nice and cold. And we are here with Cassie. How do you say your last name?
Workington.
I was like, Cassie. I was like, what is that name? Workington. So I had my previous last name was Ungaret.
Oh, another one that's a good one.
Yes. Yeah. Working ton. Well, it's just like it sounds.
Exactly.
It just seems really hard, but it's really.
It seems more intimidating than it is.
Yeah. So you are a sugar glider mentor, and
Yes.
You have been doing it for how long?
To be honest, I don't even remember.
You remember? Yeah, that's gonna be me.
I can't remember.
I mean, me, if I were interviewed, I'd be the worst interviewee ever. I'd be like, I don't know. I don't freaking know.
I'm pretty sure it's been over. I'm pretty sure it's been just over a year. I'm trying to think of like how long I've officially been a mentor, versus what I was doing before. Because I was doing stuff before, and then I had when Guardians asked me to join as a mentor for their program, and so it's like it kind of all the lines kind of blur.
They do. But shoot, I mean, sorry, I'm gonna take this off. It's really hot in here, and I was running to get here. Okay, so you, what did you do before? Tell us, Cassie. Tell us.
Before it was a
the gliders. Before you were mentoring the gliders.
Oh, so for the last few years, I've been running my small business, Geeky Gliders.
I remember you sent it to me.
Making cage sets and toys and all sorts of fun stuff for gliders. Prior to that, I had a completely different job in a completely different field as I was working in the media as a journalist, an audience analyst, and social media engagement specialist. And so I did something completely different than I do now.
Yes, I do remember this.
Yes, so I went from all sorts of journalism media to making toys for little teeny tiny gliders.
Yes, for those of you watching this, I had interviewed Cassie a while back, and my internet, I think I had 3 in a month that didn't record. I almost lost my mind. I was ready to kill myself. I was just going to jump off of the building or something. I was like, I can't. I just did this. I was like mortified. And I remember you talking now that you're saying about the social media thing.
Yeah. Yep.
I do remember. So is that a good one that I showed you?
Ring lights are great. They're fantastic. Especially when you have the backlight like you do, kind of like I do too. You can see like the window in the background. Having the ring light will help kind of counteract. So you don't have to. It'll lighten up your face without having to worry too much about,
right,
the competition.
Right. So that reminds me, I got to write that down. So you did social media and all this stuff. Then what made you decide to be like, hey, I don't want to do this. I want to make glider sets. And like, that's like a big jump. Like
it is a big jump. So I ended up in 2018, I left the media industry mainly due to burnout. It's a hard industry to be in. I was in it for about 7 years, and when you start out with breaking news and public safety, and then you're reading all of this stuff every day, and then you get into the social media management where you're basically the voice of a company, and you're dealing with a lot of complaints, mainly complaints. It gets really hard. It's hard not to, especially for people like me who are very empathetic, to kind of feel that, even though it's not you, it's hard not to feel that.
I know.
So I got really burnt.
It just, you can't breathe sometimes.
Exactly. It gets really suffocating. And so I needed a break. I needed something different than the daily news industry to kind of, just from my own mental health sake, I needed to get out of it. Originally, when I left, my plan was to either start my own blog or kind of like e-magazine, actually based on the wedding business, because I have had previous experience doing similar things in the past, or I was going to go work for a company and kind of run social media, kind of what they would call a social media manager job right now, but a lot of it's community engagement and audience analytics and kind of looking at the big picture. So I was taking some time after I left to figure out what I was going to do. And I couldn't figure out what to do. And in that time frame, my husband and I were living in Utah. And all of these pieces kind of came together where we were suddenly able to move to the state of Washington, which was where we wanted to move to eventually. And we just didn't think it would happen that quickly. And so once we realized we could move to Washington, all of a sudden everything became fast paced, and my thought process of what I'm going to do for a job kind of went on the back burner, and we started focusing on the move. And within 30 days, we came out to Washington, found a house, put an offer on a house, went back, prepped our house, sold our house, and moved out to Washington. And just before we moved out to Washington, we had started kind of toying with the idea of getting gliders, because we knew they would be legal in Washington. And they're legal in Utah, except in like the main part of Salt Lake County. And I think that's mainly because it's like very city downtown-ish kind of a thing. So again, the original plan was to just get them when we moved out here, but we ended up picking up one before we ended up coming out, who, ended up needing, it was a rehome that was a single and really needed buddies. So we picked her up before we moved out here. So my husband came out and had a job. And once he got started with his job, I was left to basically prep the house. And once I was done doing that, which didn't take long, I was left with myself and the animals trying to figure out what I was going to do for a job. And so as I got involved in the sugar glider community, I met some incredible people and started realizing, I want to make my own toys for my gliders. I kind of like this. And I'm a crafty person. And so I'm like, I could sew my own stuff. I've done this for a long time. And like within like a month of making stuff for my own gliders, I was like, yeah, I want to do this as a business. And my husband's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I think I could do this. I think I could do this. And so that was in March. We moved in February. I started looking at doing it in March. I started asking about testing in April and getting everything prepped in April. And then I was approved after testing in July of 2019. And so I've been plugging along ever since.
That is so awesome. And you feel like you've made the right path with the glider toys and stuff?
Oh yeah, I'll tell you, it's not something that's going to pay your mortgage. It's not something that's going to pay your major bills. Um, I love it because I'm a huge my brain is like creativity mode, and so for me this is fun. I enjoy this. This is when I see customers send me pictures of gliders interacting with the toys I've made or the pouches I've made and stuff. That to me is just so rewarding. There are times I miss some of the other things, but I would not give this up for it. So I toy around with the idea of doing like part-time social media management, but I would not give up doing glider stuff. I just
That's
wouldn't.
wonderful. Well, you're a blessing to the glider community. So thank you for
Thank you.
using your gifts to take care of them. Everybody can look back behind you and see that there's a lot going on right there.
It's organized chaos in my office, and that's just a small, tiny chunk of it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that is awesome. Like I don't know. I am, God bless you guys, because I could not do that. Like I would lose my mind because I like simple, clean.
Yeah.
And I like getting rid of everything. Like
Yep.
my mom
If you like clean,
because
if you like clean and yeah, this is not the thing for you, because just drilling into plastic gives you all those teeny tiny pieces of plastic that just end up everywhere, and it doesn't matter how much you clean it, it still ends up everywhere. And if you're cutting with fleece dust is everywhere. It just becomes part of your home. It's like litter.
Yeah. Yeah, I could imagine. I'm already like feel like I hoard glider stuff, so I've been trying to the stuff I don't even like, half of it I haven't even used, so I've been like sending it out or whatever, like to people, because I'm like I gotta get rid of some of this stuff. There's so much.
Yeah.
There's so much. So wow, that's wonderful. Well, thank you for doing that. We'll definitely get you highlighted here. February 20th, damn it. So when did you who initially asked you to be on as a mentor? Like how did that happen? So let's back up. You got your glider when you went to Washington, and that was how long ago?
That was February of 2019.
Okay, and then when did you get on the glider groups?
I started getting into the glider groups in February. So what we spent, well, actually I take that back. We started looking into the glider groups in December because we wanted to do research and figure out if this was going to be the right decision for us. My husband loves to research, and we're both animal lovers. I've had exotics before. But sugar gliders were very new to us, and so we weren't exactly sure what we were getting into. So we spent quite a bit of time researching, and that's why we decided to wait till we got out here to have gliders, basically pick gliders up here, because we didn't want to have to drag them on a 17-hour trip, from Utah to Washington. But when the girl got a hold of us with Knox, and she's just this little 8-month out of pouch Joey who's by herself and has always been by herself, and she's getting to the point where she needs a buddy, and she's a couple hours away, and her previous owner couldn't get her a buddy. It's hard to say no, so Knox was officially our first, and we just went and picked her up, and she was a trooper going through the drive with us.
That is so good.
Yeah.
So how old was she? Was she little one?
Yeah, she was only 8 months out of pouch when we got her, and her buddies were approximately the same. So they were all around 8 months out of pouch. Right. So we got Knox, Gidget, and Bellatrix all at approximately like within a couple of days.
I love that.
Oh, and she lived up to that name. Oh my goodness. We hadn't met her before.
That is a great name.
Yeah, she
Oh,
lives up to that name. My goodness.
That's hilarious. So you guys were already on the groups. Did you find Sugar Glider Guardians right away, or did you just have a whole bunch of groups?
Guardians we found pretty quickly. I joined a bunch of groups to start out with, but Guardians was one of the first. That was pre the massive waves of people joining over the last couple of years. So it hadn't quite, I mean, it had grown, but it wasn't like growing exponentially like it has been like the last like year and a half. So we joined Guardians and got a lot of information from Guardians. At the time, I had no idea they even had a mentor program. So I didn't have a mentor to start with. So the whole concept was very new to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I found that out much later.
Yeah, me too. Me too. So how did you get hooked up with the mentor program? What made you want to be a mentor?
So one of my fellow local gals here is part of the mentor group. And so she reached out to me and she's like, hey, you know, you've had gliders for a while. I know you do really well with your gliders. I'm wondering if you might be interested in being a mentor. I wasn't sure at first because I didn't want to commit to something because I'd had gliders for a while, but it's one thing when you own gliders and you're making decisions for your gliders. It's another when you're giving advice to someone else for their gliders, especially when it comes to like situations that could be emergency or getting close to emergency. So like my confidence level was like, am I ready for this? Can I handle this? So after talking with Sandra and Guy and Jessica and kind of talking with them about what the role would entail, I felt comfortable enough going ahead and becoming a mentor. And those first few were intimidating. None of them had anything super dramatic that they needed, but it was more of a mental thing for me of, you know, you really have to step up into the role of being confident in the answers you're giving. And my disclaimer to all of my mentees to begin with is, look, I will never tell you that I have all the answers, but if I don't have an answer, I will certainly look for one or find one for you, because I can't guarantee that I'm going to have all the knowledge. I haven't run into all the situations, but there's going to be someone who has. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of made it a little easier. Right.
Yeah. And I love our little group, like I've said in other videos, like, because I definitely don't know a lot of things. And so it's nice to be able to reach out to the group and have someone jump in. And I know I've also said this, but doing the group chat when I'm not even going to be like their mentor, like if I give them to somebody else and then I get to learn. So maybe exactly. The one is easier or it's something I know.
The last year has been an interesting one for me personally, because I've had more experience in medical situations now with gliders than I had ever had in the past. So it's been, and it's been extreme cases too. Nothing like we've had some small things like impacted glands and stuff. We've had some of those, but we had, not this last Christmas, but the Christmas before, we had Gambit, who had the accident after his neuter, who had the severe burns. And so trying to treat a glider who suffered from severe burns over the face was definitely very, very difficult very, very hard. Like it's a quick adjustment. So dealing with that. And then 2 months later, we had a Joey who became very, very ill within 2 days of coming out of pouch. I've spent a lot of time over the last year with a small group of people studying the issues of bacterial gastroenteritis with gliders, which is a thing that's popping up all across the community, and we're seeing it in Joeys and now in 2 to 3 year old gliders. We've had my first experience with a necrotic penis. So that's been an interesting one to deal with because we're a small hobby breeder. So one of our boys had a little bit too much fun, hurt himself. And so for one night, we were basically lubing up our glider every 45 minutes until we got to the doctor the next day. And then every 4 hours, Godric and I had this lovely little one-on-one where, you know, it's like you're having to pay attention to medical issues to make sure that the extended life of your glider is taken care of. And so as I'm getting some of these mentees now that are coming that have bigger issues, like I've had some that have come to me with abscess issues or who have bacterial gastroenteritis or dysbiosis or some of these bigger issues, it's a little easier now to be like, okay, this is what we're going to do. Here's what you need to, you know, go say when you're at the vet. Here's what you're going to look for specifically. Here's the kind of medications you're going to look for. And it's so much easier now than it was to start with.
That is so good. Yes. I have not. See, it's great to know that, like, whatever anybody's faith is or whatever, like, that everybody has their own God-given gifts.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't been given any I've been doing this almost 20 years and I haven't had those kind of issues. Like,
Yeah.
thank goodness. I've had some medical ones, but nothing like that. Like, I'm just like, holy smokes. Like,
yeah, it's been interesting, especially with the bacterial gastroenteritis with gliders. We see it a lot in Joeys because just like babies, they don't have the immune system that's built up. And so there's a small group of us that have been pulling data. We've been trying to go through and pay attention. And there's a couple of mentors actually and guardians who we look out for these cases. And when I talked to the admins of Guardians when this first came up, and I was like, look, this is what we're starting to see. If you guys see these cases, send them my way because it's so unusual. It's not your typical case. And we've got some data, but there's so little data on sugar gliders, especially on sugar glider gut health, that we're finding that we have to collect it ourselves. And unfortunately, there's no ability to collect a large enough sample size for, say, like a study. You'd need hundreds of gliders.
right.
And you need very specific circumstances, but we can take fecal gram stains, we can take necropsy information, we can take all of that. I mean, we hope that we don't get to a point with our mentees where it gets to a necropsy. We hope that we can just stay at the fecal gram stain area and move from there. But being able to collect that information is crucial, and being able to look and help people and guardians and kind of help steer them in the right direction, since there's not much info out there, is big.
It is, and it's great that you're out there doing that. So you tell me one hilarious either a funny story, a sad story, or something that really stands out to you since you've been with gliders?
So basically any story.
Pretty much
So
any
funny,
story.
sad,
Like one that
pretty much
stands
any.
out, like not just a normal, like one of your like ones that really stand out in your head.
Okay. One that stands out for me that truly it embodies to me what gliders are like and why they're community animals. So Gambit, for those who didn't hear Gambit's story, Gambit went in for a neuter. Neuter was done. Perfect. Neuter went perfectly. But unfortunately, because it's a surgery, just like any other surgery, since there's oxygen and they're taking a glider off of oxygen, there's always a risk. And any kind of little spark can cause an oxygen mask or an oxygen tank to ignite. And so when they were getting him off of oxygen, there was a spark, whether it be from static from the clothing or what, they weren't sure. But he did suffer from some pretty severe burns. And so when we got him, this was all during COVID too. So we couldn't necessarily go see him right away after he was injured. But once we went to go pick him up a few hours later after we got that call, they let us in and we were able to see him. And his eyes are closed because they're swollen, and he looked, he looked bad. And it breaks your heart, because it's just like, you don't want anything to be suffering. And so he has a twin sister. And I was like, I don't know how this is going to go when we go home, because we knew what we had to do. We had him on pain meds. We had him on antibiotics. We had him on a silver cream as well for the burns. But there's only you can't prep another glider to be like, okay, I'm bringing your brother home, but he doesn't look the same. Like you can't have that kind of a discussion with a glider. So I'm like, I don't know if this is going to be okay or if this is going to be bad. So we hesitantly brought her over to him. And at first she has this kind of like, what is this kind of a look? And then she realizes it's her brother. And then it was like it didn't matter that he looked funny. It didn't matter that he smelled funny. It didn't matter that I was disturbing them at all hours of the day to give him medication. She would cuddle up to him, because he was the leader at that point, but he became very insecure because of his injuries. So she stepped up and she would cuddle him to keep him warm, because he was missing fur. She would lead him around the cage and help, because he couldn't see. And so she would walk with him around the cage to kind of teach him where things were in the cage. She would encourage him in so many ways and truly keep him going. I truly believe, had he been injured and not had his sister, I don't think he would have recovered as well as he did. But that bond that they had together, and the fact that she was so willing to help him along the way the entire time, was absolutely phenomenal to watch. We moved that cage, that hospital cage, into our bedroom so that if there was any emergency situation, we would hear it immediately. And, for the first few nights, you're not sleeping because you're like, I don't know what's going to happen. And I don't know if he's going to, and he, he's like, I'm just going to do whatever I'm going to want, or whatever I want him, and he's up on the top of the cage, and he'd get stuck because he couldn't see anything. And so she'd go rescue him and bring him back down and stuff. And so for me, that was incredible. And I still get updated photos from their owner. You would never, other than the external structures of his ears are missing, you would never know that this glider had any injuries because all the fur came back in. And as soon as he regained like all of his fur and his eyesight and everything was perfectly fine, he stepped right back up into that role of leader, and now he takes care of his sister, and they are just sweet as can be. And so to me, it's just incredible to see that community support between gliders.
That is so sweet. That is the sweetest story I've ever heard. That is pretty
It's sad, but it's so sweet.
It's so sad. Broke my heart, but then to hear her,
Gambit and Rogue were just so sweet.
Gambit and Rogue.
Rogue.
Oh, yeah. Rogue. I like that name.
All of our Joeys end up with geeky names.
Like Rogue. I love it.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to ask you if you have to give one piece of advice to new sugar glider owners. What is it?
This is kind of a weird one because it's not something that's heard a lot and it's newer. But to me, because I've been so involved with medical stuff in the last year, my piece of advice to people would be, when you get new sugar gliders, no matter where they come from, whether they're rehome or from breeders, or whether they're your first or whether they're your sixth or whatnot, take them to the vet for their check and have them do a fecal gram stain, just to make sure that there's no bacteria. Because when you're bringing in a new glider, what we're finding is that it can come from the most sanitary of places. A breeder can do everything right, and it can still end up with bacterial gastroenteritis. And when that happens, it spreads, and it spreads quickly. And depending on the health of the glider or the age of the glider, we're seeing a lot of gliders that are dying between ages 2 and 4. And that's young. I mean, it's one thing when we're seeing Joeys and we can spot the Joeys, but we're seeing a lot of gliders that are dying now between 2 and 4. So it's worth the money to get these fecal gram stains done and just make sure that your gliders don't have any bacterial issues going on in their gut. There's no other way to know. They can act completely normal. So it will save you a lot of heartache. It will save you a lot of vet bills in the future if you do that.
Great advice. That is really good advice. Oh my gosh. So we're already this has been great. I almost feel like this is even better than our first one. Oh my God. I think this is a win. So we're going to go to those rapid fire questions.
Yeah.
What would you name your autobiography?
Oh, goodness. I wish I could remember what it was before. Crazy, chaotic, anxious, but sensible.
I like it. I would read that. Okay, next question. Favorite place of all the places you've ever been?
My favorite place would have to be when I went with my husband to Monterey Bay, Jamaica, because our hotel had like this little private little cove beach area, and I am a huge like beach person, and so when we went, it was just like this small little area and there was hardly anybody there, and so we could just sit in this little beach with like no one there for a while and just enjoy our time.
Do you like, are you one of those that when you go to the beach you read?
No, I like to spend time in the water or sitting, like I'll sit by the water. I could probably sit and read, but I find myself more, I guess, fulfilled taking in everything. The sounds and the visuals, to me, those are the places that calm me a lot. And so for me, it's just kind of soaking it all in.
Aw, that's so nice. So your favorite beach, you said that was, I was so interested in your story about taking it all in and the beach and stuff. What beach was it?
It was in I think it was Monterey Bay, Jamaica.
Monterey Bay, Jamaica, Monterey Bay. I'm always looking for new places to go.
Yeah, this was in this little, like, we went to an all-inclusive resort, and literally you walk across the street and they just have, like, there's a bar out there that they'll do food and the bar and everything like that, but then it's just got this little area where they maybe have max like 12 chairs out there because it's just so small, and you can watch like the crabs and everything walking around on everything, and you can just see everything going on. It's really interesting.
Yes, I love that. We're leaving in 7 days, as long as I can just get myself away from people to make sure that, because this COVID thing's terrifying me right now.
Yes.
Because 7 days we're leaving for Mexico.
Ooh, fun. Where?
The first week we're going to Cabo, the second week Cancun.
Oh, I love Cabo. Cabo San Lucas, or are you going for okay, yep. Cabo's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm very excited, but I'm super like, okay, everybody just stay away from me. Like,
you're kind of Lysol. You're like 6 feet.
I know, and I still have to work, so I'm gonna be like, wear masks, wear gloves. Nobody get too close to me. I'm not hugging anybody for a week. Like, I just want to get to Mexico and be in a suit, and then I don't care.
Yeah.
Whatever happens. Like, when I'm down there, whatever. I just want to get there. So, all right, let's see. I'm gonna give you one. Which question do I want to ask you next? I'm gonna say, and I already asked you that one last time, so I don't want to ask you the same ones. You have to sing karaoke. What song do you pick?
I typically go for Joan Jett songs. I'm a huge karaoke fan. My best friend and I used to go to karaoke all the time. So Joan Jett was up there, Pat Benatar. Like,
Pat Benatar.
I mean, I was born in the 80s, but grew up in the 90s. So I'm a huge 80s music fan. I love 90s music too. So yeah, there's something about just belting out Joan Jett or Pat Benatar that just can't beat it.
I love it. Oh, that's so funny.
I mean, there are some fun times where you just want to throw something weird out there and you're singing Sweet Transvestite by, from Rocky Horror Picture Show or something like that. That just throws everybody off. But
let's do the time warp again.
yeah, exactly. It's like sometimes you just got to throw something weird out there or, just to make sure people are paying attention or like Baby Got Back. I've done that one a couple times. People are paying attention or pour some sugar on me.
Yep. I love karaoke.
It just depends on the crowd, what time of night it is, and how much I've had to drink.
Yep. Oh my gosh, I love it. That's so funny. Awesome. That is awesome. That is so fun. Great. I got the right question. Okay.
Yeah.
Last but not least, when you are gone, what do you want to be remembered for?
I just hope that in some way I have left somebody feeling a little bit better about themselves, or somebody, I'm hoping I leave something good behind. I don't need a huge legacy. I don't need to leave something that I don't need my name to be this big old thing. I don't. I've never been like that. I just hope that I leave something behind that actually means something, even if it's in the smallest way. So if that ends up being glider research, it's glider research. If it ends up being I have kids and I leave something impactful with my kids, then it's that. I just want to leave something behind that is meaningful.
That's awesome. I think we all want to make a difference in people's lives, especially people who mentor, because we're giving back to try to help the gliders.
Exactly.
So right now we are highlighting, let me do it. Cassie, is it Casey or Cassie?
It's Casey, but I've been called Cassie all my life, so it's either.
Because of the one S.
It's the one S.
Casey Workington. Yes. Oh, when the crowd goes wild. Don't forget to visit her page. She is the owner of Kiki Gliders. We will put the link in the body. If you haven't had a mentor or would like one, please reach out to one of the admins. If you're looking for information, don't forget we have information in the file section of our page. There isn't a new thing now. Used to be you just go to the file section and it was there under the name. You have to actually now search for the link. So I think Aaliyah was adding some stuff. So hopefully it's easy to find. If you're having a hard time finding some information, reach out to your mentor or one of the admins. As always, happy gliding, be safe, and have an amazeballs day.